So history awaits one way or another. And he bends it. What a goal! He's done it again. Remember the name. Oh, what the finish! Wow. Oh my word!
This is just pure touch, instinct, confidence.
Western United have won the A-League Championship. We are all square after the first leg of the semi-finals in Sydney, but a draw won't do tonight. And with the away goals rule not in place either, it is a straight shootout between Melbourne City and Sydney FC for a spot in the grand final. Melbourne City must start as the favourites. They haven't lost a home match at Amy Park since last year's grand final with Western United. And over the course of the National League journey, only 5 premiers have failed to go on to reach the decider in 37 attempts. To buck that trend, Sydney FC must become just the 3rd team ever to reach the final from 5th spot on the ladder. You have to go all the way back to Adelaide City in 1994 to find the last time it happened. But maybe a good omen for the Sky Blues is that Zoran Matic's team went on to win the title that year at Olympic Park. The old ground, of course, that sat right next door to our vantage point here this evening. As for Melbourne City, they've won the last 5 meetings between the two at this venue, and they are aiming for a 4th consecutive grand final. Sydney chasing a first win over City here since 2018, when Adam Lafondra scored twice in a 3-0 victory. Jamie McLaren, a study in concentration. Didn't have the best of evenings in the first leg in Sydney, rather starved of service. He will certainly hope for better tonight. And what is certain is that one of these two will be in the grand final for the 4th year in a row. Which one is about to be revealed. Well, plenty of fireworks to greet the teams. Let's hope we get them on the park tonight. Here's the team news. Rado Vidicic making 3 changes in a rather interesting lineup. Callum Talbot, Florent Berenguer and Richard van der Ven are all benched. Nuno Reyes moves to right back with Thomas Lamb to partner Curtis Good in the middle. Aidan O'Neill returns after missing the first leg. Andrew Naboot starts and Matt Leckie will play as the number 10 in a bid to get better service to Jamie McLaren, who had just 13 touches of the ball in Sydney. Rather chilly night in Melbourne, temperature of 12 degrees, but the rain thankfully has abated. As for Sydney FC, they make just the 1 change, but it is a big one. Robert Mack hasn't travelled to Melbourne, still suffering with that hamstring problem. So Adrian Segicic comes in for just his 3rd ever start. Joe Lolly isn't quite fit enough to start. He's on the bench. Otherwise, it's as you were for the Sky Blues, for whom Adam Lafondra goes in search of a club record tonight. If he scores for the 7th consecutive match, he will equal Mark Yanko's club record. Jayden Kucharski is back on the bench after serving his suspension. Well, the pitch perhaps a little bit heavy, getting a lot of traffic, of course, at this time of year. There's Aidan O'Neill, who not only missed the first leg in Sydney with back spasms, but as you might remember, actually missed last year's final series in its entirety with a broken toe. So perhaps a little bit of a point to prove for him in finals football tonight. As for Sydney, Luke Bratton has had such a brilliant final series so far. He might remember spent 2 years in City Blue, but his last finals game at Amy Park didn't end so well. he was sent off after 35 minutes in the grand final between these two clubs in 2021. Experience on the bench for City as well, of course, with Scott Jamieson. And Sydney FC have got a fair knot of supporters at the far end of the grounds, looking to cheer them on. There's Rado Vidicic, who's enjoyed a seamless transition into the head coaching role after the departure of Paddy Kisnorbo. Just 3 defeats in 21 games since he assumed control, though one of those was his first match against Sydney FC. Talking of first, Steve Corica's first ever game in charge of Sydney, himself as an interim at the time, was in 2012 against Brisbane Roar, led by a certain Rado Vidicic. Sydney lost that game 4-2 despite a double from a certain Alessandro Del Piero. Well, that indicates just how chilly it is. It's bobble hat and scarf weather. Our match ball deliverer, courtesy of league sponsors Isuzu UTE. And the recipient tonight is Sean Evans, our referee, taking charge of his 156th A-League match, but just his 5th in finals football. Adam Lafondra, bang in form after his injury woes. Can Sydney give him the service tonight? Valon Berisha certainly gave Matt Leckie the service in the first leg. A brilliant free kick. And off we go. 90 minutes, possibly longer, to decide the first entrant into this year's grand final. The head probably says Melbourne City, Andy Harper, but Sydney have defied many critics just to get into this position.
Yeah, I think Sydney's form over the last couple of months deserves them even money status, Simon. Good evening to you and to everybody watching on the 10 Network and Paramount Plus. And I think what maybe tips the scales, if anything does, towards Melbourne City in this game is the injuries to Sydney players key and the return of Aidan O'Neill. Of course, let's see what sort of shape he's in, of course, but if he comes into this deciding match, Aidan O'Neill playing in the number 13 shirt, there he is, just in the centre circle. If he brings his season form into this final tonight, it's going to be a tough night for Sydney FC.
What do you make of the 11 that Rado Vidicic has selected tonight, Hart? It's an interesting one, isn't it?
You know, Simon, I can't add anything to your description. It's caught us all a little bit by surprise.
Well, let's see how they go. This is Jordan Boss. He'll be on his way to Europe at the season's end to join Westerlo in that record-breaking deal worth $2 million. What a prospect he is. And he gets the return off the throw from Leckie. Behind him is Curtis Good, who of course had his own big deal to Newcastle United many years ago. And that ball forward has found Leckie, who was trying to put it into the path of Jamie McLaren, but Redmayne nipped in.
It was a dangerous ball in prospect over the top from Lamb. Matt Leckie made a really good run in behind the Sydney defence. I might have expected him to have collected that a bit more cleanly. The Socceroos start.
Slight slip from Andrew Redmayne. Point of contact as he went to put that ball upfield. Top is a little bit greasy after quite heavy rain earlier on today, but dry at the moment. Sydney FC thinking it was their throw, playing in their change strip tonight. Max Burgess, who scored a goal at this ground against Melbourne Victory earlier on this season. In the big blue, he would love another one tonight, which would be even more important. This is Thomas Lamb. Put that ball through for Matt Leckie some moments ago. Maybe an indication that City are a bit more prepared to go direct tonight.
Well, their best play is the one that has guaranteed here's a good switch coming. Idea of which well read by Marco Tilio. Their best play, Simon, if they can get it going as they've done most of the season, is to play the full press and to play at a speed that opponents find it difficult to match. And it tends to really kick in and be really interesting to see if it goes down this path, but typically from about 15-20 minutes in, Melbourne City really start to dominate.
Thomas Lamb given free rein to advance midway into the Sydney FC half of the field there. Sydney making sure their defensive structures are sound, which they have been for the most part in this final series. Slight tweaks that Steve Corica has implemented in the wake of their derby drubbing by the Western Sydney Wanderers, which of course they've already avenged in this final series. No real options on for Curtis Good, maybe because in part of that structure Nuno Reis gets it back off the boot. And here's Good. Looking for the boots, but nowhere near finding him. Easy for Joel King, brought down by O'Neill. And City will start again through Thomas Lamb. Leckie very tightly watched by Bratton. He could be so important again for Sydney tonight. City have broken through that defensive line. It's just a little bit heavy though for Jordan Boss. Goal kick.
Well, even as Sydney have tried to close in midfield and challenge the ball, Melbourne City have been strong enough and technical enough to get away. That last penetration, Sydney saved by a heavy touch, but it was Aidan O'Neill bursting through in tandem with Jordan Boss. It's quite a frightening physical threat that. He had Matthew Leckie to it as well. The boot down the right-hand side. Nolan Borussia coming through midfield. But there's a lot of horsepower in those footballers combined.
In the air by Leckie, helped on by McLaren. The boot stretching for it. Joel King providing important cover. Tilio eager to get on with the throw. Leaves it for Boss. O'Neill. Slightly heavy touch, which allowed Caceres in. City enjoying heavy weight of possession in these early stages. It's a strong win though by Le Fondre, and Sydney will now look to break forward. Burgess does well to keep his feet and the ball away from the attentions of O'Neill. Pass was a trifle short though for King, and the boot nipped it.
Yeah, I just think Max Burgess erred there in turning out. He should have kept driving through and forcing Aidan O'Neill to foul him and put the pressure on the referee to get a card out early, because it's a very threatening situation, and inadvertently Max Burgess, with his decision to check and play out, took the pressure off both Aidan O'Neill and the referee.
Punched out wide by Good for Tilio, who in turn looks for Leckie. Good challenge by Rodwell. He's had a good final series as well.
He's shown the quality, hasn't he? It's taken a while, in truth, since Jack Rodwell has entered the A-League, first as a Wanderer and then certainly as a Sydney player, but finishing very strongly and showing his quality and value. Caceres
looking for that run of Ryan Grant. Jordan Boss is matching him stride for stride. Grant a little bit too far wide for Max Burgess. O'Neill says, I'll have it. Now Valon Berisha with the touch, inviting Nuno Reis forward. McLaren calling for it back post. Reis delays. McLaren still wants it, and it was in that direction, but Rodwell behind it. And now Bratton. A little nudge from Jamie McLaren, and that relieves the pressure on Sydney FC.
A big night for Luke Bratton. He won't need reminding of his red card in the grand final here a couple of years ago. It would still haunt him. He's such a competitive player and been fabulous value for any team that's had his services, but that really hurt him that day. It certainly hurt the team. And a big night for him tonight, a big performance, and a Sydney win can really do some atoning for that event for him.
It's a good ball by Rattray. That was an important moment, that, for Sydney, but Segacic just allowed it to squirm away from him. Well, they had room there. It was a lovely release from Rattray.
Yeah, speaking of players in form, Paulo Retre's grabbed his opportunity towards the end of this season superbly well. Key part of that defensive approach to which you and others have referred, Simon. He and Luke Bratton playing as twin sixes, two defensive midfielders, a great block in front of Wilkinson and Rodwell. He's been really outstanding the last few games, Paulo Retre.
King, Burgess, Sydney facing forward in towards Le Fondre, but nodded away by Good. Still there for Sydney through Caceres. Through for Segicic, who keeps it alive. And Sydney have themselves a corner. Melbourne City believed that the ball had already gone behind. It should be a goal kick before Segicic could retrieve it. Let's have a look.
Another prompting from Caceres to Segicic.
Inconclusive.
You could mount a case, and you would if you were Melbourne City. Whole of the ball's got to go over the whole of the line.
Here's the corner for Sydney, which Tom Glover feels with ease. One of Melbourne City's heroes a week ago at Allianz Stadium. A couple of absolutely top draw saves. Double save in particular in the second half. The second one to deny Robert Mack. One of the saves of the season for me. And of course, Mack absent tonight. Harps, big loss that for Sydney.
A huge loss. He was quiet last week, but that's because of the injury. Fabulous finish to the season. Lolly as well. That's significant firepower.
Berisha. Boss. His wasn't the surest of touches. It rebounds nicely here for Jordan Boss. Steered away from danger by Jack Rodwell, who shows that composure once again to sort out the problem for Sydney. City come again. Tilio. How did he get through there and fires it across with real pace off the head of King. Berisha underneath it, and King is there a second time. Good pressure from Sydney, well withstood by Sydney FC. And O'Neill's header has only found Burgess. You could see what he was trying to do there. Trying to angle it in behind Curtis Good for the run of Le Fondre.
It's a great run from Tilio. He's got beautiful feet. We've got sort of an enticing prospect tonight. Tilio, former Sydney FC player, doing it for Melbourne City, and maybe Segicic, the next generation Tilio. I know they're in a couple of years apart, so they're not separated by a generation. They're very similar players, though. And if Segicic tonight can emulate the sort of football that Tilio's been dishing up, what a treat we're in for.
No foul on Lecky. Caceres steams forward for the visitors. Outside him is Le Fondre. Tilio got back goal side and got a foot in. Maybe one of the reasons why Rado Vidicic was keen to include Andrew Nabout tonight was to return Marco Tilio to the left side. He played on the right last week, and someone with quite a few of his teammates didn't have a huge impact. Here's Burgess. Le Fondre looking for the give and go. Quite on the same page, those two. Drop here for Le Fondre, though. Trying to thread it through the legs of the defender. It was all very tight in there to find Grant. Scooped forward by Lecky. And McLaren wins it in the air. Now Berisha. Wasn't too much on ahead of him. And Caceres got back in time. And Berisha, in attempting to retrieve that situation, had his arms all over Anthony Caceres. He knows that was a good chance in transition there. Valon Berisha. Segicic trying to link up with Burgess, not quite on for them. And here's Jordan Boss. Lecky having a stretch, and I think he got a piece of it. Ryan Grant intervened. Sydney come away with the ball. Burgess. Rattray. And Bratton. Caceres. Yeah, Melbourne City throw. Final touch off Caceres. Both teams on really good runs, of course. Sydney are 7 matches unbeaten since that Derby loss to the Wanderers. Melbourne City 9 without loss. That's their best run of the season. Closing in on their club record, which is 11. Here's Lecky. It's it out wide for Tilio. Corner ball off Ryan Grant.
Well defended from Ryan Grant. Tilio's already put defenders on notice. The quick shuffle of his feet and that jink onto his left foot. Fondra sliding in and helping the ball with Lecky out to Tilio. Ryan Grant was sharp enough. But they conceded the goal from a free kick Sydney did last week, and then nearly went down another goal with the Curtis Good header from a corner. So they want to have worked on that through the week. Sydney FC defending from set pieces. Let's see how they go.
Yeah, it was a problem for them a week ago. Alan Barishu delivered that free kick for the Lecky goal. Out comes Redmayne, gets a solid punch to the ball. City will reload through Aidan O'Neill here. Lecky. Barisha. O'Neill completes the triangle. Tidy work by City. Well, it was until that point. Lecky just indicated that maybe he just took a little slide on the pitch there. Mentioned the rain that we had earlier on today. Maybe making the surface just a little bit soft, and those passing statistics probably just indicating that what we've seen with the naked eye is probably to be the truth, that Melbourne City are generally on top without forcing too many problems for Andrew Redmayne.
No, but we're hitting that quarter hour, 20 minutes, and on the back of dominating possession, very frequently Melbourne City then start really putting the physical pressure on. And at that point, teams have to hang on. Sydney did it well last week and then finished very strongly.
Well, on Barisha, again on set-piece duty. He's really given that one some air. Andrew the Boot's done well to keep that one in play. Right underneath that one. O'Neill. Boss. Setting off on one of those jinking runs. They've almost become one of his trademarks this season. Lecky playing in that more central position tonight. Lamb having to reach to keep it away from Segicic. City again building quite nicely. Everybody behind the ball for Sydney. Lamb, Naboot fires it in. Near post was Wilkinson. Sydney's defence for so much of the season has been one of their big problems, but now conceded just 4 goals in their last 6 matches. Partly, I guess that's due to the return of Jack Rodwell. And indeed Alex Wilkinson, who's missed part of the season as well. Oh, that's Burgess. That's a nasty challenge, and the Sydney bench are immediately out of their seats and imploring Sean Evans to show a red card. I think it's just going to be a yellow, but it was right in front of the Sydney bench. The City bench, I should say.
Well, it's a really stupid tackle from Max Burgess. Completely inexplicable. I mean, players have got a bigger sanction for less than that.
Richard van der Ven's on the pitch. VAR, of course, going to have a look at this again and decide whether any upgrade is needed. Oh, it's a bad challenge.
I mean, it's just stupid.
It's a bad challenge, Max. And the apology afterwards, I'm afraid, won't wash yet. Sean Evans has been called across by Chris Griffiths-Jones, and I fancy Max Burgess is in trouble here.
He's gone. It's stupid. It's rank stupidity. And it was calculated. He'd slid in. There was. I mean, you could have had a cup of tea by the time.
It's the height as well.
It's just gone. It's look, it's stupidity. Yeah. Rank and utter stupidity.
I fancy this is going to be upgraded to a red card. And he's going away from goal. He's near the sideline. Completely unnecessary. And this could be a big problem for Sydney FC. So early on in the game as well. Sean Evans is having a long look at this. I can't see it can be anything other than a red. But let's see. Yeah, yellow card is going to be cancelled. And Max Burgess is off. And Sydney are down to 10. And we've not yet played 20 minutes. Extraordinary. Well, it was already a difficult task to come to a club who haven't lost at home at Amy Park all season. And now they must do it for the majority of the game. Harps a man short, Sydney.
Well, it's totally indefensible. It's not a reflex action. There was no spike beforehand that we know of, at least. It's calculated.
Ooh, even Graham Arnold says all.
Yeah. Either that or the curry's just kicked in.
No laughing matter for Sydney FC. And now they've got a free kick to defend. Barisha near post this time. Away by Rattray. Barisha again. Sydney had already sat quite deep in their defensive structure. They're going to be, if anything, even deeper now. Nuno Reis. Looking for Leckie at the back post. Tilio, Leckie was offside and knew it.
So, Sydney will have to dig in. They've certainly got the character to get out of this. They're going to have plenty of a big deep reservoir of that, because Melbourne City have got so much quality. And Max Burgess will be lamenting as we speak. He'll be hurting in the dressing room. He'll be deeply regretful. But he's left his team in the mire. Can they get out of it?
Sydney thinking there might have been a shove there on Adam Lafondra. He's making that point to Sean Evans. Curtis Good in the clear. And O'Neill carries it forward. Boss. At the start of the game about that red cards for Luke Bratton in the 2021 Grand Final in this fixture, Harps. It's not Bratton this time, it's Burgess. But similar sort of scenario for Sydney FC.
Yeah, well, that was the 35th minute that Luke was sent off. So they've got a longer road to hoe, Sydney. They've come back from the edge, in a sense, this season already.
In a race. Down he goes, but Nothing much in that. Let's go down to Michael Zappone on the sideline. Zappa, wow, what a start.
Yeah, and that was right in front of the Melbourne City bench, as you mentioned, and they knew that there was more to that challenge than the first judgment of a yellow card. We talk about Melbourne City's record here. I know we're talking about the fact that they haven't lost a home game at Amy Park, but let's give some hope to some Sydney FC fans watching back home. Melbourne City have lost a game here at Amy Park this season. It was against Melbourne Victory in a Melbourne Victory home game by 3-2. But interesting to see now how Melbourne City respond to this, and Sydney FC. We've already...
Lafondra up there on his own. It's going to be a long night for Lafondra up there. And Sydney FC just going to have to rely on counter-attack football now. The likes of Segacic, Caceres, Lafondra trying to break quickly when they can, but they're going to sit in a deep block. And it's going to be a long night for them.
Thanks, guys. Sydney have at least a throw in here, deep inside the Melbourne City half of the pitch. Punching challenge. Offside flag is up though. Good. Lamb. Of course, playing against 10 men isn't always the easiest thing to do with that low block. It can become harps, sometimes akin to wading through treacle.
Yeah, and Sydney, in a lot of ways, don't need to change a significant part of their game plan, because it was predicated on that compact defence, denying space for individuals and then denying space between midfielders and strikers.
A couple of good touches there from Barisha McLaren. Here's Naboot. Got the body shape all wrong, Andrew Naboot.
And so in that sense, it's a challenge for the team's leadership, and they've got plenty of leaders out there. Grant, look at the internationals strewn across the back line. It's a fully international defensive unit. From Ryan Grant through Andrew Redmayne over to Joel King at left fullback. Jack Rodwell and Alex Wilkins and Luke Bratton. I mean, there's enormous experience. And so the focus needs to be right. Well, a large part of our game, guys, doesn't change. We still defend the way we were intending on defending. We have to find some inspiration in an attacking sense to break this team down. But you know what? Teams have made it to World Cup finals on penalty shootouts. And Sydney don't have to win the football match to win this game.
Here's Boss. Tillia. Weaving through traffic. At least until he found Jack Rodwell, who's then turned the ball over straight to Andrew Naboot. He just had to look forward, Rodwell, and thought, well, where do I go? There wasn't anywhere.
And of course, that's the calculus for Sydney. But doing it against this wonderful Melbourne City team is another challenge altogether. Tillio's looking sharp. Lecky's hovering with intent. You've got the ace executioner in Jamie McLaren, who can do nothing and then kill you.
You can throw a blanket over all the players at the moment. He's going to spend a lot of time, the football, in this area of the field in the first half, or what remains of it. The boots gets away from King, who drags him back. That's going to be a card as well. Only a yellow this time for Joel King, but he knew that Andrew Naboot had slipped the moorings and it got away.
Well, it's excellent work from Andrew Naboot, and he drew the foul expertly, having gotten the blind side of Joel King, who's now on that yellow card.
Which is his second of the final series, incidentally, booked last week as well. In danger of missing any potential grand final. You've got to rack up 4 in the final series to miss the grand final, which is impossible. Here's Barisha's free kick, and McLaren off the uprights. Goodness me! From a really acute angle, somehow he craned the neck muscles And Redmayne grateful to see it come back off the frame of the goal. City pushing. Sydney will get some respite here. Or will they? No, it's going to be a free kick for City.
And here's the header. Palaretto thinks, I've got my man, I've done my job. Now, these set pieces from Valon Berisha, by and large, are really, really tidy. And Andrew Redmayne, it was a valiant, desperate dive to his right, and look how keenly he looked over his shoulder to see if he was going to find a friend in the frame of the goal, which he did.
Well, he's touching that wood at the moment, Andrew Redmayne. Hoping that it will bring him more luck as he sets up this defensive wall. Which numbers 3. City pushing, probing for that all-important opening goal. Berisha towards that back post area where Thomas Lamb and Curtis Good were both arriving, and neither could make contact. Aside of Lamb's boot on the post in frustration.
I'm not entirely sure how Thomas Lamb missed this. Look at the position he's in. That's a big miss. That's why he kicks the post. I mean, he should have got on the end of that. If really, with that sort of run, that sort of trajectory, any contact's a goal. Close the book on that one.
First shot on goal. Or was that in the boots some moment ago? A glance off the head of Thomas Lamb? Maybe. Anyway. That's the good news for Sydney FC. Chances remain at a premium and the scoreline remains level. It's a long time to play a man short against a team of the quality of Melbourne City. The right to play either the Mariners or Adelaide in the grand final. They play tomorrow night, of course, in Gosford, and not too many tickets left for that one. That's going to be a cracking occasion on the central coast of New South Wales. The Sydney FC fans who've travelled down for tonight's game. Bratton, there's a little arm across from Lackey, that was enough. Bratton rushed to get on with the free kick. Ryan Grant went down. And that's brought about a conversation between Steve Corica and Daniel Elder, the fourth official. Fourthie gets it in the air all game, doesn't he? Another Sydney throw. Sydney are going to make the grand final. They're going to have to do it the hard way. Fifth place on the ladder. An away derby. 10 men for 70 minutes in the second leg of the semi against the Premiers. That would be quite some achievement if they were to make it from here.
In a team, a lot of whose football is based on the fact that they run like rabbits repeatedly. It's going to be a tough assignment, and really one for their own folklore and history books if they can get out of this one. But they're holding tight so far.
Tilio. Somehow he managed to wriggle away and play in Jordan Boss, who drives into the penalty box. And he was looking to be, I fancy, a little bit too much the meat in the sandwich there, Jordan Boss. And Sean Evans said nothing doing.
Good burst. And it didn't yield an immediate reward, but next time he gets the ball, and it's the impact of this time after time. Plays like, God, here goes Boss again. Here he goes again. Here he goes again. Tillier doing brilliantly to keep the attack going, as you see there in the corner of your screen.
Thomas Lamb. Worked out wide by the boots. Nuno Reis almost playing as a right winger. So dominant to City in terms of possession. Trying to move Sydney around. Get them out of shape. Berisha thought about the shot. Clips it through for Leckie. Good first touch. Rebounds off Redmayne. O'Neill not within the vicinity to apply the finishing touch.
That was beautiful football from Berisha to Matthew Leckie. Good save from Redmayne. First time he's really been tested.
And the promptings of Valon Berisha so far have been a feature of this semi-final second leg. Not just from set-piece deliveries either. Out towards Nuno Reis. The boots. Never go himself here. Off target with that one.
And Berisha just dropped it beautifully, but the run from Leckie was outstanding. The touch was mouth-watering to set up the shot. Best moment on goal for Melbourne City so far this evening.
Melbourne City's beaten home record at Amy Park this season, as Michael Zapponi rightly pointed out. They did lose the derby here to Melbourne Victory. In terms of interstate teams in their home games, you have to go back to Adelaide, February of 2022. They were the last team to beat City here at this venue from outside their own state. Bratton's turned it straight back over for Boss. Leckie. O'Neill. He thought about the shot too. Instead it's Nuno Reis. The boots. Again, the play compacted into Sydney's defensive third, and it's going to be a Melbourne City corner.
And the diligence from the set pieces defensively so far, Sydney has been better compared to this time last week. It's needed to be. Melbourne City camped literally around the Sydney penalty area. How long can they hold out?
It's just City's second corner. Sydney have had one. Berisha's outswinger, and not in there this time! Curtis Goods! The only player left from the Melbourne Heart days when they wore red and white, sends those in City blue into raptures. And it's his first goal of the season, an opportune moment to score it. And City have the advantage.
Well, on the Harvey Norman replay, we got a pretty prompt answer to the question, for how long can Sydney hold out? Not long. Curtis Good hit the crossbar about this time last week from a corner. And he goes one better tonight at Amy Park. The post has saved Redmayne to his right once tonight. He could do nothing about that. The defence in front of him, not on this occasion up to the task. And Curtis Good stoops, headers, scores, and Melbourne City with a foot in the grand final.
Well, that mountain has just become even steeper for Sydney FC. Curtis Good, an unlikely scorer. Yet again, it's Valon Berisha, the provider from a set piece. Here comes Sydney looking for an immediate response, but Segacic has overcooked that by quite some margin. mentioned it early in the piece, Harps, and how Sydney struggled against set pieces last week. They've done all right up until that point, but one little slip, one tiny bit of space for Curtis Goods.
Well, I guess it was the reverse order this week. Last week it was the set piece to the goal, and then Curtis Good hit the woodwork.
Here's Leckie, Aidan O'Neill, charged down by Wilkinson.
Tonight it was McLaren hitting the woodwork, and then Curtis Good getting the goal.
Barisha, who claims another assist. A little kick there, or a tread on the boot by Lafondra, for which the Sydney striker apologised. Lamb. The boots fires it in. McLaren. Well, they were queuing up there. There was McLaren, and then behind him Leckie.
Did they get in each other's way?
Possibly.
It should be two. It's a beautiful ball in. Rodwell has a quick glance. He's got his eye on McLaren, and it probably should have been for Matthew Leckie, but McLaren's not going to know that. At short notice, Ryan Grant just beaten on the run in there by Matthew Leckie.
Looking to add to his 24-goal tally for the season. His all-time seasonal best is 25. So one tonight would equal that for the Melbourne City skipper. McLaren, of course, has got his own reasons for wanting to win the championship this season. He missed the 2021 Grand Final on international duty, as did Curtis Good. And the only other two Grand Finals he's played in, he's lost them both. Sydney would have wanted to get through until half-time with scores still level in the tie after that early dismissal of Max Burgess. And they must ensure they don't concede a second, because then Steve Corica's half-time team talk is next to impossible. Leckie. Touch around the corner by McLaren, but straight at Bratton, who's then crowded out by three Melbourne City players as they swarm all over the ball. Tilio. Slip by Boss rules him out of the equation for the moment. O'Neill. 1-2 attempt with Barisha. Not quite. I think Fallon Barisha maybe just got caught in two minds there as to what to do.
It's hard to know exactly what the foul was for in there.
Possible, yeah.
In which case, why does the whistle not go till now? It was that initial one.
Yeah,
I'm not quite sure what advantage was being played for Sydney in their own penalty area.
They touch the ball for Tom Glover. Tilio gets away from Caceres. Up from Bratton. It's going to be a conversation. In fact, it's going to be more than that. It's going to be a yellow card for the Sydney midfielder. shake of the head from Luke Bratton. And of course, used to wear the colours of Melbourne City. Tilio's so slippery, isn't he?
He didn't leave referee Sean Evans with much option there. Luke Bratton has had the ball on the string so far tonight, by and large. Valon Berisha.
Another set piece. Again, Berisha to deliver. This time, Ryan Grant stooping to head away. And there was a flag up against Melbourne City for offside. Owen Goldrick on far touchline. Half-time approaching, Hearts. If you're Steve Corica, what's your plan?
Well, got to keep defending tight, keep working hard, see if you can draw Melbourne City and try and level the ledger, have a plan to level the ledger player for player-wise. See if you can draw Melbourne City players into some challenges. Stir the pot a little bit. And from that, maybe get a foothold or a goal on the break. But you're going to have to change the personnel to do that, unfortunately. Depending on who's got the best engine, they'll need to get their data out from the season. How good does Patrick Wood go from deep to forward to give more power and thrust in counter-attack?
Got Jaden Kucharski on the bench. Joe Lolly, of course, but he's probably not 100% fit. You'd probably save him for later on in the game, wouldn't you?
If at all, yeah. I mean, to me, it's what's the makeup of Patrick Wood? You know, can he come on and provide some fireworks for us from a deep position?
There is the Sydney FC bench. Diego Caballo, James Donachie, Jake Kucharski, Patrick Woods furthest right alongside Joe Lolly. Especially friendly between Lecky and Grant, and launch forward by Bratton. Maybe not a bad tactic if Segacic could get on the end of it, but he couldn't as we move into 3 additional minutes at the end of the first half. City, as they have been for much of this opening stanza, resume control. Possession stats heavily in favour of City, as you would expect. Here's the man whose goal divides the teams, Curtis Good. Pursued here by Caceres. Square for Lamb. Almost let him get away from him, and he was reaching there. And this could be a card for Thomas Lamb. Yeah, it's going to be a yellow card. He was reaching for the ball because his first touch wasn't great. Now, Sydney FC, of course, are saying it should be more than that.
Of course they are, but here's the point. Now you can make a project maybe in the second half if you're Steve Corica of Thomas Lamb. That's unless this gets further sanction. We haven't seen a replay yet.
Well, the physio has been called for. Let's have another look at it. It's a yellow card.
It's a yellow card. That's not going anywhere. I wouldn't have thought.
He's trodden on the foot of Rattray.
It doesn't mean Paolo's foot's not very, very sore. But here's now something onto which Sydney can hold. Can we drag Thomas Lamb into a position where he's uncomfortable and maybe an injudicious decision for a second yellow?
Well, of course, Steve Corica believes it should be upgraded, as Max Burgess's was. Redmayne again, slipping on takeoff. Melbourne City throw. It'll be a little bit time to be added on by Sean Evans. Not too much. It's an extra 12 seconds. And that is half-time. And Amy Park in the second leg of this semi-final. So far, so Curtis Good for Melbourne City. He's got the goal that matters. Came on 37 minutes from a Valon Berisha delivery, as it was in the first leg. Before that, though, Sydney FC had made their task even more tricky, having Max Burgess sent off for a late and high challenge on Marco Tilio. Can Sydney fight back in the second half? We shall see. At the moment, it's 2-1 on aggregate to Melbourne City. On the night, City 1, Sydney 0.
Poland's one, all thanks to Knackers. They're getting amongst it as well. I like the pink shoes. Very good. Trying to get me some of those. Zooming on those shoes. That is awesome. There is a goal in each entrance. That's what they're now doing, guys. They're having a bit of fun. And seeing yourself on the big screen. If you do, give us a wave. That's it. So hi, Mum. Hi, Dad. Hi, significant person. That's a good chance. Well done, kiddo. That was using your head. Good job.
The journey to the big time starts right here at halftime. Supporting the champions of tomorrow. That's Macca's Halftime Heroes.
Submit your Isuzu UTE code by scanning the QR code on the screen right now and head to keeper.com.au. If you are correct, you may be the chance to win a signed Isuzu UTE 2023 Grand Final match ball. How cool would that be? Straight to the pool room. Head to keeper.com.au and scan the QR code. Play along. That was brutal. Medic. Medic. He's okay. He's up. Go your own way, Isuzu T-Max, I'll get you out of the way and let the kids drive the car, It's the mini Isuzu T-Max, or the mini T-Max. I tell you, it's a big wheel and a little wheel. More thanks to Isuzu. They're going crazy, they're loving it. These kids are going to be driving on the road one of these days. Someone help us.
Welcome back to Amy Park. Jamie McLaren is our Ned's level player performance. Another outstanding first half by Jamie McLaren. His passing accuracy up to 75%. 7 touches. He only had 13 last week, but when he gets in the box, he's very dangerous. Let's take a look at some of his highlights now. Andrew Durante, he was dangerous. As we spoke about in the pre-game, always very difficult to mark.
And he comes to life in the box. That's what he does. He probably doesn't touch the ball so much in general play. But when that ball's about to come in, that's when Jamie McLaren comes to life. You'll see here, he just gets that little half yard, pushes off the defender. Any young kid watching this, take note, gets that half yard. He uses the pace of that cross just to glance it. It's so hard to defend. He's running towards the goal, towards the ball, away from his goal, and he just glances that to the far post. Very, very hard to defend, and that's why he scored so many goals, because he knows how to get that yard of space inside the box.
That was our Paramount Plus playbook. He scored a goal very similar to that for the Socceroos. His first ever goal for the Socceroos in the Asian Cup in 2019 against Palestine. Almost did it again tonight. Kick-off for the second half is a minute away.
Well, Sydney FC, with it all to do, they do have the best records in the Isuzu A-League men's competition this season. When falling behind, they have won 4 matches after conceding the first goal, but this, you fancy tonight, a completely different kettle of fish against the Melbourne City team, who have such a strong record here at Amy Park, and they are, as they come back out for the second half, halfway to what would be a 4th consecutive grand final. Tom Glover's barely had anything to do. Let's see if Melbourne City can complete the job. And we did wonder about this lineup that Rado Vidicic selected tonight, but so far it has done the job, kept the likes of Lafondra quiet. Let's see if Sydney can mount a challenge. Their season depends upon it.
financial fine will also be issued until the Federation spends money.
Steve Corica, perhaps with his final half-time team talk of the season, we shall see. And at what point does he turn to his bench? If they could keep City within range, can they find a bit of service for Adam Lafondra? Anthony Caceres, who you might remember missed that penalty last week. It was then ordered to be retaken, and Lafondra duly dispatched it from the spot to give Sydney the 1-1 draw. They need to score in this next 3/4 of an hour to keep the semi-final alive. Melbourne City in there, light blue shirts, kicking from left to right on your screen in the second half. No changes made by either coach at the break, Andy Harper, but we also don't expect to see much change in the pattern of the play.
No, wouldn't have thought so. And Sydney to dig in for the bulk of this second half, and hope for these half moments like this to break away.
Look for the switch crossfield, and Segacic is going to get on the end of it. Find the angle pass. Nuno Reis, she's so strong. The Portuguese defender. City deal with that one with relative ease. It's just those little moments, Harps, isn't it, in transition that might give Sydney half a chance. Mind of the lineups tonight, which of course, from Sydney FC's point of view, now does not include Max Burgess, sent off after 20 minutes. Sydney just with one change tonight, but a big one with Robert Mack being left back in Sydney with injury concerns. Adrian Segacic, his replacement, the 18-year-old. Grant's been dispossessed. City hungry for what would surely be a clinching second goal. It's run away from Jamie McLaren.
Yeah, poor execution there, 8-0. And Rado just making sure, because the danger for Melbourne City, as it is for any team in this situation, is that your standards, your personal standards can drop. You think the job's done because you're dominating the game, you've got a goal and a player extra, and it's a matter of course.
A little dig to the ribs by Aidan O'Neill, which has drawn the ire of Sean Evans. He doesn't think there was too much in it. The Sydney FC bench, of course, disagree. Let's have another look. It was higher than the ribs. It was right in the face of Luke Bratton.
It's a yellow card at least, surely.
Yeah, trailing arm.
But
Steve Corica in discussion again with Daniel Elder.
The fourth official or a match official, I think, can perhaps advise the referee. I don't think it can go to VAR. Someone's having a whisper to Sean Evans now.
It's more than a whisper from the Sydney FC bench. Bratton remains prone on the turf. And it's this trailing arm. It's caught him flush in the face.
It wasn't a swinging arm in defence of Aidan O'Neill. Was his arm in a natural position, Simon?
Don't start with that. Steve Corica is quietly cooking. He might have even said something, I think, to Rado Vidicic in the opposition technical zone. Rado's view, of course, is that there was not too much in it. He's trying to protect the ball, but when the arms are out, contact is made, you can sometimes attract a card from the referee. Lengthy delay. Luke Bratton's being told he's got to go to the sidelines because he had treatment on the pitch. And that's the end of that. Safe to say it's not going Sydney's way.
Yeah, well, comfortable that that's not a red card, but I think it should have picked up some sanction.
Could easily have been a yellow. Anyway, it's not. Sydney will resume just for a moment with 9 players before Bratton is allowed to re-enter the fray. Now he's back with us. Lucky doing his share of defensive work. Nuno Reis tidily back to Lamb, and a touch for Tom Glover. Curtis Good, whose first half goal is the difference at the moment. The boot. Lamb for Good. Boss. The familiar pattern resumes. City with all the ball. Sydney trying to stay as compact as they can. If they can just maintain that 1-goal deficit, then perhaps we'll see the likes of Lolly and Wood. Here's Jordan Boss, though. Such an exciting player when he runs at pace. He's way off beam with the finish this time. He's going to be one to watch on his travels in Belgium next year.
He most certainly is. Let's enjoy him while he's here too. And that shot a little wayward, but on each occasion he's had possession tonight. He's beat the first defender and just glides past the one-on-one situation. Ryan Grant and Anthony Caceres on that far touchline trying to look after Jordan Boss. It's an unforgiving job.
Segacic hasn't had much change out of Nuno Reis. Here goes Jordy Boss again. Little ripple of excitement around the ground. Gets it back off Leckie. Lamb. O'Neill. Touched by Tilio. Bit of work on that far side by Caceres. Robbed the ball back, or then a slip by Grant. And a foul by Bratton.
Sitting on a yellow. Jeez, I'd want to watch that. Luke Bratton. Ryan Grant turned away from feet, out of trouble, so he thought, but he lost the ball. Matthew Leckie was about to spear away.
Little verbal exchange between the two coaches was on again for a moment after that little skirmish. Had a bit to say to each other. Messrs Corica and Vidicic. Here's Valon Berisha. There's an awful lot of room in there. Dropping back into play to auxiliary midfielder. Here's Tilio. And Jordan Boss beaten away by Redmayne. And it comes to Thomas Lamb. Goodness me. He put some power behind that one. Good hit, but straight at Redmayne. First real chance of the second half. Touched by Leckie. And then O'Neill back for Good. Dummy by Matt Leckie. Tilio isn't quite able to keep his feet. It's a real skirmish for the ball on that far side. Here's that previous opportunity.
Well, Jordan Boss, second time this evening on that right foot. This one's on target. So is this from Thomas Lamb. Strikes it really sweetly.
He's not just a goal scorer or goal creator. He puts the work in as well, Marco Tilio. Will we be seeing him again in the A-League next season? Another one that's strongly linked with a move overseas. Nuno Reyes done a good job at right full-back tonight. Position he has played in on a few occasions before, of course. Tilio. Boss. Good. Faster is the cry from Rado Vidicic, the City coach. Naboot. As the ball's played quicker to move Sydney around. Otherwise, it's just too easy for them to readjust. Lamb. O'Neill. Reyes. Crossfield it goes, and that was unorthodox by Boss, but he managed to keep it alive. O'Neill for Berisha. It's like a training ground drill at the moment. Harps attack v defence.
Yeah, and Sydney closing the gaps as well as they can. Only a couple of shots conceded on goal. They've seen away 10 minutes of this second half. So even as unlikely as a positive outcome for Sydney is, they still have it sort of within reach.
Segacic with the latest intervention, and I guess that will be part of Steve Corica's plan, to keep City within range maybe for the last 20 minutes or so, and then look to his bench.
Yeah, well, a couple of things come into play. That if Sydney can manage to hold on, a couple of things come into play. Melbourne City perhaps start to second guess and panic, mindful of one slip up and Sydney on a counter could get something, and the longer it goes, of course, and if frustration builds for City, again, you're talking about, here we go, maybe Sydney targeting a couple of players to get back to 10 v 10.
Ryan Grant full of energy down the right, gets the head up, has a look to see what's on. The answer is not much. Checks and finds Caceres, and Grant has continued that run. This is promising. Oh, and some work at last for Tom Glover. That was intended as a cross, I'm sure. That sort of raid could pay dividends for Sydney.
Well, this is where, deep in the game, if Sydney can hang on till then, Melbourne City don't force the issue, can't get that second goal. These moments become tellingly nervous for the team in the lead.
Good spin by Berisha. Intervention by King. Nuno Reyes. Setting it back to their patient build-up. Accumulating the completed passes. O'Neill. Sydney happy to let them have the ball up until the final third. Again, they've defended that pretty well. City substitutes just warming up away to our left. They've got their own talent on the bench, of course. Florent Berenguer, Richard van der Ven among them. There's the Sydney replacements. Spoken about them at length already. Threaded through for Berisha. Important touch by Wilkinson. Naboot. In it goes. That could be the clincher. Jamie McLaren from close range, who equals now his best ever seasonal return with his 25th of the campaign. And Melbourne City are surely headed for a fourth consecutive grand final.
And I think this is becoming an unfortunate night for Jack Rodwell, in particular for Sydney. On the Harvey Norman replay, he lost Curtis Good for the first goal, and as Naboot fires this in, it's gone off Rodwell for an own goal.
Your eyes better than mine, Harps. Clear own goal. McLaren sliding in with him, but the final touch very clearly off the defender. They all count. McLaren congratulates Andrew Naboot for the delivery. And it's a heck of a task now for Sydney FC. Well, we've seen comebacks before from 2 goals down in finals football, but with 10 men, it's going to be very, very difficult now for Sydney FC. Touch for Berisha. Nuno Reis, they're in the mood now. Slipped in behind for Naboot. And Wilkinson on the stretch puts it behind for a corner.
No, it's the running power of Melbourne City, which is the clear delineator between they and other top teams in the competition. But up to, and with an extra man, it's hang on if you can, Sydney. And if your instincts are right, Simon, and they're in the mood now, there could be some serious damage inflicted on Sydney here by Melbourne City.
Berisha to take the corner. They scatter near post as Andrew Naboot trying to guide it into that far corner. That's a second goal for Melbourne City, incidentally, the 50th in the reign of Rado Vidicic as their head coach, which is not bad going considering that he only took over mid-season. Naboot. Is now the point at Harps where Steve Corica must look to his bench. Oh, Grant and Tillier in a collision in that far corner. It's going to be a free kick.
Curtis Good dropping the ball over to Marco Tillier. Has been a bit of a marked man tonight. Cleaned up. Ryan Grant as he steamed through there. It was Tillier on the end of the red card challenge from Max Burgess, 21 minutes in.
How many of these set pieces has Fallon Berisha delivered today? Goes low this time. Boss, it's real power. Deflection up in the air, favoured Redmayne. It's wave after City Blue wave at the moment. Sydney just do not have the answers. 81% that possession is now blown out to in the second half. Spooned up in the air, brought down nicely by King, but Lecky's reactions were sharp. The boot. Nuno Reis. Bit of space here for the boots. Clips it into a good area, away by Rodwell. Chested down by Nuno Reis. The boots around the outside of Segacic. Caceres can't keep it in play. Tiring work for those Sydney FC players, and Steve Corica is going to look to his bench shortly. Boots. Dribble harmlessly behind. Curtis Good, of course, always heavily involved in the build-up. So a lot of touches of the ball. Here's another one. Pocket of space for Melbourne Berisha. Segacic. Sydney just sharper. City who should sharper outside. And it's Jamie McLaren who fires just wide of that left-hand upright.
Still hungry, still sharp in those turnovers. Sydney completely beaten at the moment. And it was Aidan O'Neill who swooped. Look at him go. He can smell it. He can sniff it. He stretches in. The touch goes to Jamie McLaren, who then backs himself.
Well, Sydney FC going to make a couple of changes. Joe Lolly to replace Adrian Segacic. And Jake Girdwood-Reich will be brought on in place of Paolo Retre. He's not 100% fit, the Englishman, but at this point of the game, at this point of the season, they need him. First ball here will favour Grant. Caceres has his pocket picked by O'Neill, and Tilio's away down the left. It's Marco Tilio! That'll do it, if there was any doubt at all. Melbourne City into the grand final. A thunderbolt from Marco Tilio as he moves into double figures for the season. And City are 3 clear on the night, 4-1 on aggregates.
Well, on the meatworks floor, look at the butcher of Melbourne. Aidan O'Neill on the Harvey Norman replay. Just pounces on the Sydney midfield. Releases Tilio, who lets rip with the speed and the left foot. And Sydney now hung, drawn and quartered.
He's still got a fair bit to do here, Marco Tilio, but didn't he do it well? Despite the desperate attentions of Jack Rodwell into the roof of the net. It's another super finish from the former Sydney FC prodigy. And double figures for the first time in a single campaign. And Sydney FC have just been blown away. Here's Lolly. How about that from Andrew Naboots? They're bringing out the party pieces, Melbourne City. That wasn't one though. Cheap giveaway. Grant's cross. Ricochets back to him off good. And then he's in position to deflect it behind for a Sydney corner. Which Luke Bratton will take. And Rodwell, eager to atone, of course, for the own goal. Nods well over the top. Melbourne Barisha's got a problem. City are readying Richard van der Ven and Callum Talbot to get a piece of the action the last 20 minutes. Both left on the bench tonight, which, to be fair, Harps raised one or two eyebrows, ours included.
Yeah, did raise eyebrows. And of course, well, the game never got to a point where that tactical decision really could have been tested, because before the game really got going, 20 minutes in, was the red card, which really set the game on a trajectory.
He's been very good tonight.
Excellent.
Particularly his set-piece delivery.
No, they've been very, very good. O'Neill's return to midfield telling. That one's gone to plan. And as expectations would have had it, he's just had a phenomenal season. Aidan O'Neill.
So Melbourne Barisha takes his leave. He's wanted to come back on the pitch. Daniel Elder's saying, no, you don't. So City will just wait to make those changes. Barisha's back with us now for the time being. Bit of miscommunication there between Tilio and Lecky, which allowed Caceres to nip in. Lolly. It's going to be a corner, not a bad outcome for Sydney. Melbourne Barisha's saying, take me off, I'm ready to go. Radovicic doesn't want to make that change from a defensive corner. Lolly's delivery. Grant trying to get the flick on at the near post. Joe Lolly doesn't look to be moving overly freely, does he? With that hamstring problem. See if his delivery's okay here. Away by Lamb. Swept wide, nicely on the half volley by Tilio. And upfield for the run of Lecky. Good challenge. Goodwood Reich, fresh off the bench. Just a mention of Alex Wilkinson, Harps. It's not confirmed. He says he's going to make a decision in the off-season, but if this is the last we're going to see of Alex Wilkinson, his 30th appearance in A-League finals, more than anybody else, what a career he's had.
An unbelievable career. And we'll wait. I sort of hope he plays on. He's such an adornment to the game.
Here goes Andrew Naboot. Flies it in. Oh, Redmayne got a touch, an important one too. Because it flicked off the defender. Oh, and then Ryan Grant, attempting to clear the ball, has knocked all the stuffing out of Marco Tilio on that far side. Goodness me. That nearly knocked him into next week. Triple change for Melbourne City. So Melbourne Barisha, as predicted, takes his leave. Excellent display from him. Aidan O'Neill will also be replaced. And Curtis Good as well, who got Melbourne City off to that start that they wanted in the first half. And Scott Jamieson, the third member of the trio.
Yeah, just to round out the discussion for Alex Wilkinson at the moment, we'll wait and see. I hope he keeps playing. He's been fantastic for every club he's played for, but every time I watch him I think of my dear late father, who watched a lot of football and didn't get many things right about players. But he came home one day and said, I've just seen two really good kids playing out at Blacktown in New South Wales. Brett Holman was one, and this other guy on his team was Alex Wilkinson, as 12-year-olds. And every time I see Wilco, I think of my late father. He got that one 1,000% correct.
He was pretty good with Brett Holman as well,
Well,
to be fair.
true enough.
Slung forward by Redmayne. Perhaps more in hope, really, than expectation, but Still might work out for Sydney. Scoop forward by Nuno Reis. One back by Girdwood Reich. Could be something brewing here. Here's Joe Lolly. Can he find an angle? Well, he gets it on target, but routine for Tom Glover, nothing more. Forward it goes by Naboots, accurately too, brilliantly for Van der Ven. He was trying to play the 1-2 with Alex Wilkinson there for himself. From Sydney's point of view, Harps, I just can't help but feel that that moment on 20 minutes when Max Burgess dives into the challenge on Tilio was the turning point.
It completely defined the game, as the grand final a couple of years ago he did with Luke Bratton's send-off. But 4 consecutive grand finals, and rival teams have seen the template of this dominant football team. And en masse, they haven't really been able. 11 points they won the Premier's Plate by. And en masse, really, the collective hasn't found a solution. The first thing you've got to really try and do when you're trying to knock Melbourne City off the top is match their running power. Maybe easier said than done.
Turned back by Jamison. Room for Van der Ven. City stroking the ball around with such confidence now. Van der Ven. And a break here for Leckie. Fondra got a foot in. Ryan Grant bursts clear of that attempted arm across by Tilio, for which Sean Evans will bring them back. Gives us the opportunity to go down to Michael Zapponi and Andrew Durante.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. A very interested onlooker all the way on from the other side of the world in France. Patrick Kisnormo, just had a chat to him on a FaceTime call. He was talking to some of the staff down here on the sidelines, and we said g'day, and he's played a big part in this team's success as well.
Here's a chance for Le Fondre. And Tom Glover forced into meaningful work. Nicely teed up by Joel King. Best chance Sydney have had in the second half. What about Zappa, friend to the Stars?
Look at him. Who else is he plugged into there? Hey, Zappa, come clean.
Plenty more up my sleeve.
Van der Ven slides it through. Tilio. The cutback, they're queuing up here. However, offside flag was raised. Didn't get quite enough on that. And assuming they are going to the grand final, Harps, in terms of their opposition, who would Melbourne City prefer to play, do you think? Who would they match up against better, of the Mariners or Adelaide?
I think that, oh, geez, that's a tough one. I sort of guess at the 2, if you really push me, and then I'm going to ask you for yours, so you're not going to get off the hook here.
Here's a chance, perhaps. Bratton spotting Glover off his line.
I'd say at this point, Adelaide. Of the 2, if I'm going to have to split a hair, and that's going to be a lot of the talk in the lead-up, of course. You?
Well, I can't remember the entire sequence of results between the 3 clubs, but I was going to say the Mariners, to be honest. I do remember Adelaide doing a number on Melbourne City. 4 goals to 2 down at Coopers. Of course, that won't be the venue for the grand final. We'll see how that plays out. Mariners have the advantage in that game, of course, for the second leg tomorrow in Gosford. Seagulls have arrived at Amy Park. Perhaps they're ready to feed off the carcass of Sydney FC at the end of this game. They've been well and truly put to the sword. Here's Lolly, though. Is there some consolation for them at the end? Lafondra trying to turn. Una Race wouldn't let him. There's an almighty scramble for the ball. And in the end, City sorted out. Just a couple of little moments for Adam Lafondra in the last 5 minutes or so. Final 10 minutes in Melbourne. City sitting pretty. Jamison for Van der Ven. Boss on the turn. Evades McLaren. Joe Lolly desperately trying to get out. Wilkinson. King. Oh, given away by Joel King very carelessly. McLaren sidesteps Lolly, feeds Van der Ven, beauty! Really good goal by Richard Van der Ven. And Melbourne City have hit 4, and Sydney are sunk without trace.
Reward for Richard Van der Ven. It's been a great pickup this season on the Harvey Norman replay. It's a really poor turnover from Joel King. And to complete the script, it's an exclamation mark with a line down the page and a dot right there. 4-0 Melbourne City.
Lovely stuff from Richard Van der Ven, and credit too to Jamie McLaren for his part in the build-up, although it was a horrible error by Joel King. Melbourne City, as you watch this replay, making some more changes, and it's going to be a very emotional farewell to Amy Park for Jordan Boss. Florent Berenguer is on in place of Matt Leckie. Jordan Boss says his farewells to this venue. He'll be playing in Belgium next year with Westerlo. We wish him all the very best as he makes the big move to Europe. What a talent he is. And of course, he'll still have one more game to play in City Blue.
And we'll take some stopping, as will this team.
Confirmation. It's been Melbourne City's night. Patrick Wood is on for Sydney FC and fires into the side netting. Adam Lafondra, the man withdrawn for Patrick Wood. It's just a question of how many for Melbourne City. Tilio will reel this one in. And another corner for the home side.
Yeah, and when you look at how Melbourne City actually have ended up doing the damage, there was poor marking from a corner, goal 1, own goal, goal 2, loss of possession in midfield by the ravenous Aidan O'Neill, goal 3, and a turnover from Joel King, goal 4.
Is there a goal 5? Jamison, deep delivery, Van der Ven reaches it. Will it sit? Oh, it's a really good save. Really good save by Andrew Redmayne to deny Andrew Nabbout.
Yeah, Andrew Nabbout does really well here. Again, Sydney just really finding it difficult to deal with the ball into the box. And Redmayne has to save, does very well to tip that one over.
Jamison again, flatter this time, away by Rodwell at the near post. Tilio. That'll be Redmayne's. Wood there ahead of Thomas Lamb, but all he can do is toe the ball over the goal line. Rado Vidicic, the job is almost done to return the club to the grand final. They've become used to it in recent years. Sydney FC fans, and there are a few of them here today, still in fine voice though. Overall, perhaps even getting this far was a bit of a surprise given their mid-season form. Here's Callum Talbot. He's fancying joining in on the scoring action against his former club. Seen behind by Nuno Reis, who's had an outstanding game at right fullback.
Well, they haven't had a poor player, Melbourne City. They dominated the game from the opening exchanges without really threatening Sydney's goal. And then the send-off. And really, all bets were off at that point.
Just a few minutes to go. The outcome inevitable. Melbourne City, by the way, a total now of 66 goals this season. One more will be a seasonal record for them. Here's Nabbout. Redmayne plunges on the ball. They scored 66 goals back in season 14-15. Days of Bruno Fornaroli and Aaron Boy, Harry Novillo. To 66 again this season. Regular season and finals combined. Tilio, brilliant. Still going. Wilkinson gets it out of harm's way. Sydney look like a team that is just begging for the final whistle. It's been a really tough night for them. Touched by Van der Ven. Berenguer. Van der Ven. McLaren. And Redmayne prevents further damage to the scoreboard, and he still awaits goal number 25.
Well, it could be 5. It should be 5 by now. Andrew Redmayne standing alone between Melbourne City and that ignominious scoreline for Sydney. They've been very tidy. Didn't quite catch it, Jamie McLaren, as he might have.
About to tick over into stoppage time. The end of a supremely dominant display by the Premiers. Daniel Elder indicates there's just 1 minute. That's the best news Sydney FC have had in quite some time. The boot. City ended the game as they started, almost complete control, and the space appears again. Jamison off the head of Wilkinson, and then Rodwell, who got a little nudge, and Sydney will have a free kick, which might just be the final action of this two-legged semi-final. Alex Wilkinson, who scored the first ever goal against Melbourne Heart at this venue back in 2010. Maybe about to be playing his final seconds in pro football, who knows? All eyes now on Sean Evans. Is that. What a performance by Melbourne City. Helped, it must be said, by that early red card shown to Max Burgess, which really tipped the balance heavily in favour of Rado Vidicic's team. Curtis Goons got the opening goal to edge them in front in terms of the tie shortly afterwards. And then in the second half, they simply blew Sydney away. An own goal by Jack Rodwell, a super finish by Marco Tilio, and then substitute Richard van der Ven with the icing on the cake. The Premiers prevail and march on to a 4th consecutive grand final as Sydney FC are vanquished. Fortress Amy Park remains unbreached as City remain on track to add the title to the Premiership already in their cabinet. Sydney falling short in the end, and it will be Melbourne City against Adelaide or the Mariners for the trophy in 2 weeks' time. Full time at Amy Park, Melbourne City 4, Sydney FC 0. City go through 5-1 on aggregate. Let's get some reaction with Zappers.
Thank you, Simon. Richard van der Ven, sensational goal. Let's start with that. A fantastic finish. We've seen you score a few here at Amy Park. Must have been a nice way to finish the evening.
Yeah, I think a perfect ending. Great result. Tough opponent, but I think we did very good.
And for you, your first experience of finals, this finals campaign, how have you found it for Melbourne City? It's one final to play last week and a lot on the line tonight.
Yeah, I was disappointed, of course, that I didn't start, but I did my saying against coach. It is what it is, but yeah, just have to go to Sydney and win the grand final.
I suppose it's a perfect storm tonight for you guys and a perfect preparation because you were able to take players off and give other players a lot of minutes and rest those that perhaps might have been carrying an injury. Do you feel like you're the best preparation now for the grand final?
Yeah, it depends if you get in this zone, you know, of playing matches and we have a week off. Yeah, you can see both sides of it, you know. But yeah, like I said, I think we're doing really good, and yeah, let's prepare for the big game.
And it's an extra long wait now, isn't it? It's a little bit frustrating to have to wait another week.
Yeah, of course. After this result, you want to go on, and now you have to wait again. It's a little bit like it's a how do you say it? It's a shame. Not a shame, but yeah, I don't like to wait, you know.
Well, we look forward to seeing you in action again in a couple of weeks in Sydney. Well done tonight.
Yes, thank you very much.
All right, let's have a look at Alex Wilkinson now. Alex, 21 years in the game, and that would have been a hard one for you to swallow this evening.
Yeah, look, it's send-off Urcha. You know, they're a good enough team with 11 men, and then to go down to 10 made it difficult. And then look, we tried to sort of hang in there till half time, but obviously conceding on a set piece hurts us again. Did the same last week. And then second half, you know, they kept the ball well, and you know, whenever we went to step up, they had numbers in our back, and you know, they're a good passing team, and they fully deserve the win tonight. So congratulations to them, and yeah, we weren't quite good enough tonight.
A lot of people wrote Sydney FC off. You finished 17 points off Melbourne City in the home and away, and you finished strongly. The last month has been very good from you guys. You feel like you've answered some of your critics?
Yeah, in a way. I mean, we wanted to obviously win tonight, which would have proved them wrong again. But yeah, look, we had an up and down season, that's for sure. We started pretty poorly, and you know, the back half of the season was much